Pixar is coming out with their 10th sequel this weekend with Toy Story 5. And some people are saying that it might actually be as good as Toy Story 2 or 3. Pixar has a pretty decent track record of sequels. Not all of them hit, but most of the Toy Story movies do. So, what better way to celebrate than to rank all Pixar sequels? We're obviously going to come at number 9 with Cars 2. Cars 2 is a fun movie, but it's not a particularly good movie. The animation is nice, the logic doesn't make a whole lot of sense, and this did not need to be a major story. It didn't feel like a natural progression of what Cars set up, which was a slow-paced movie about slowing down and enjoying the finer things in life, and this movie was not. Coming in at number 8 is Monsters University. Technically not a sequel, but it is a prequel to Monsters Inc., which is another fun, entertaining, heartfelt film. And I think Monsters U kind of does a good job of world building, and there are fun characters, but there's nothing to write home about. Number 7, Finding Dory. Again, this is a fun little romp, and I think for the most part, this movie was working well, but then it kind of loses itself in the third act where it becomes a little bit out there. But again, the animation is gorgeous. I don't understand why we needed to make Dory the main character, even though her story and plight felt heartfelt. It just didn't need to happen. Number 6 is Cars 3. I have a soft spot for Cars, and I think this should have been the natural succession of Cars. And I feel like the animation is nice. The story of passing the torch and knowing when to admit your limits and let the next generation take over is just something so natural to Cars. And I believe this was the right progression to it. It's a little underrated, and I think it's a fine little movie. Nothing brilliant or anything, but just a fine little movie. 5 is Incredibles 2. This was probably the most requested sequel up until it came out, and it ultimately became a little forgettable. I think the animation's nice, and I like how it picked up right where Incredibles left off, and getting to see Helen be the main character was nice. But I don't feel like the conflict really progressed beyond twist villain kind of thing, and ultimately it does feel a little forgettable. Number 4 is Toy Story 4. A lot of people will say that this is probably the worst Toy Story, but that's still not something to snuff at, because Toy Story movies are fantastic, and this being the worst one, it's still a really good movie. It's still a natural progression of Toy Story. It didn't need to happen, not necessarily, but you get to see where Woody kind of ends up. Kind of expands the Toy Story world a little bit more. So in this, we're going to get into great territory. Inside Out 2 is a fantastic sequel. Again, a natural progression to Inside Out. More emotions are introduced. You get Riley dealing with her teenage angst, anxiety playing such a major part. I know a lot of us deal with it, and the manifestation of it was handled so well in here. I can watch another Inside Out movie, and I feel like there are so many emotions that you can explore, and so many different developments in through childhood to adulthood to teenagehood. There's so much to go on that they can make more. And is there any other question? Toy Story 2, I will give it to the second spot, but I feel like as a sequel, Toy Story 2 is a perfect sequel. It expands the world. It fleshes out the characters some more. It has a really great arc. I feel like this is the perfect sequel, and amongst the Toy Story movies, I think this is the best Toy Story movie, narratively and story-wise and progression-wise. It's just a perfect movie. But while having said that, the best sequel, I think, is Toy Story 3, and this has to do with a lot of nostalgia, my own enjoyment, my own place in life at the moment I watch this film. I think it just wraps up the Toy Story and Woody story so well. This was the year I graduated from high school, so I felt Andy's plight. I felt like I grew up along these characters, these toys, and I just felt like this was the most natural progression and conclusion that we could have had for the Toy Story verse. And it's just another brilliantly told movie, and well executed, well animated. It's a little bittersweet because it answers that question of growing up. So those were all the Pixar sequels ranked. There's a few more coming out later after Toy Story 5 with Coco 2 and Incredibles 3. I'm hoping that more of them are in the line with Inside Out 2 and not so much Cars 2 or Monsters U. So let's hope those movies are great. And I'm so excited to go see Toy Story 5.